We're about to run Eve of Ruin, and Josh is the dungeon master. I'm one of the players in the game, and while I was preparing for my character, Josh said that I could choose an uncommon magic item and a rare magic item. So in this video, we're going to discuss 3 choices that I considered for each tier for my wizard. Stay tuned. We've got some fun choices ahead.
Vecna, Eve of Ruin starts our characters off at 10th level. They don't really give any guidelines for, how you should build those characters and what that means. They give you like a couple, they should have gone on some adventures by now, and like that's all well and good. That's the easy part, in my opinion. What I think there needs to be more guidelines on is how are we building these characters and what kind of equipment do they have? So what did I do? I went to the DMG. What does the DMG, the Dungeon Master's Guide, show you? For a 10th level character, I don't think it's very helpful. You're either in a group with 5th level characters or in a group with 16th level characters. And I didn't think either of those made sense. So what we did is we went with 1 uncommon magical item, 1 rare magic item. This gives you the freedom as the DM to kind of see how things go and award more or less afterwards. But you'll hear a lot more about that when we actually play through the adventure and give the guide for the adventure. But we have a fun party.
We do. We've got Michael, and if you've watched any of our playthroughs that you've seen here, you've seen Michael because I think he's been part of all of them, which is awesome. He's going to be playing a dwarven armorer artificer, which is very significant. And then we've also got our friend Lee from This Crits. He has his own YouTube channel, which you should check out whenever you have the chance and give him a subscribe. But Lee is going to be playing a dexterity-based champion fighter. So we're going to be 3-manning this, and their choices definitely was something that I was considering when I was making my selections.
We have our list of uncommon magic items here. 3 of them in alphabetical order, as God intended, which I think was actually unintentional, but it happens. Jake, I see you have Broom of Flying up here for the number 1 spot. What are you thinking about with that? What do you like about it?
So I'm playing a halfling wizard, and their size is small, and so they have a speed of 25 feet. I'm a level 10 wizard, so I've got some teleport options available to me, but being able to bump your speed up to 50 feet is incredible, especially when it's also flying, which is also another concentration spell I wouldn't have to use if ever I wanted to do that. I'd also have the ability to carry a friend, which is not something you normally can think of if you're considering a halfling. And one thing I thought was really fun, because I love creativity. That's why wizards and spellcasters tend to be some of my more favorite classes, because I could take my creativity and kind of ramp it up to a fantastic level. One of the things you can do is you can send the broom places within a mile as long as it's like familiar to you. And I just thought that could be something fun if it ever comes up that I could play with. Maybe the group gets separated. I could say, hey, go pick up Lee. He's always causing trouble. You know how Lee is. It could be one of those things. And I was just thinking, like, it's just a good bread and butter kind of an item that could really impact a lot. And we love movement here, Josh. We talk about it to death in almost every video or guide we have for players. We're talking about movement, and this is an item that enhances that.
Yeah, and saving a spell slot, like not having to cast fly, that's so significant. Helping you get around obstacles, move around the dungeons or the mountains or whatever it is. The next one that you have is probably my favorite. It's one of my go-to uncommon items, Cloak of Protection. +1 to AC is nice, but I feel like the really great thing here is +1 to saves, especially for a wizard. Was that one of the things that was in your mind?
Absolutely. I mean, you're going to be making concentration checks, especially since we're going to only have 3 people. And even though we have a fighter and an armorer artificer, which will both, I think they should perform well on the front lines. Like, I think, they're going to have high AC, good hit points and things like that. There's only 3 of us. And I would like to have a better armor class and make those concentration checks. And so, yeah, this one's a very simple, straightforward option. I would say the quote unquote only downside is that it does require attunement, which definitely factors into maybe just the potential way you see your character playing out.
That is a big thing. You only get so many of them. I'll have a homebrew for that pretty soon. Jake's laughing because he knows what that joke means. I feel like the last thing on your list here is it's not something that would come to mind for most people. Jacob Tabletop, tell me about the immovable rod.
The immovable rod was one of my final considerations because it's kind of just in a category of its own, right? I have something that enhances speed as one of them. I have something that's just very baked into combat with the cloak of protection. But the immovable rod is just a very creative item. And as I just mentioned a while ago, that I love creativity. It's part of one of my favorite motivations for playing Dungeons and Dragons. A rod that can stay in place and carry or support up to 8,000 pounds. Like, that's just whatever shenanigans you're in, you've got an option at your disposal to just really mess with it. Like, you want to lock something shut by putting an immovable rod over a lid of something or a door. You need to hang off of something that's weird or hide in the air somehow. I don't know. There's whatever situations you can imagine could come up. The immovable rod is just an interesting little tool in the tool belt to take out.
A movable rod, I have to agree with you. It is certainly, it's one of those things that just works really well if you're creative. It's like the prestidigitation or minor illusion of magic items. What'd you choose?
I ended up going with the Broom of Flying. Like I said before, we love our movements and things like that in this game because it affects the game on ways that I think people often fail to consider or quantify because it isn't always as sexy as this deals 1,000,000 points of damage. But the ability to move around 50 feet on my movement, if I need to dash and everything like that. And plus, I mean, I am a Harry Potter fan, so being a wizard on a broom, it just gives the vibe. The fantasy's there. It kind of checks every box for me. So yeah, that's what I went with.
I think it's a great choice. As we know, sometimes your best ability is your availability. What's going to help you get there better than a 50-foot flight speed? That's pretty significant. Speaking of availability, there were 3 choices available for rare items. That's not true. You could choose from the entire list, but we narrowed it down to 3. I see you have Arcane Grimoire.
When the spell hits your eye like a grimoire, eh? That's how it goes. Yes,
you got Arcane Grimoire. This is interesting to me because I actually didn't even know that this existed until we started talking about it. There's some really cool stuff. What was special to you about this?
It actually has different rarity tiers to it. So at the rare tier, it gives you a +2 to your spell attacks and a +2 to your spell save DC. And then a wizard's arcane recovery feature is bumped up by 1 level. So at level 10, I would have 5 levels of spells I could get back on that short rest. With this item, I would get 6. It does require attunement, but this is going to affect every single thing, really, that I try to do. In combat, I make a spell attack. I cast spells and have saves that I have to force my enemies to make. The phrase save or suck, I'd rather not have the suck part as the spellcaster. So, again, it's a pretty straightforward choice here.
It's really cool. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that will give you that bonus to attacks, but having the arcane recovery also be increased, that's pretty significant. And I think that's going to come in handy. I'm actually very excited to see the moments that gets used and what that looks like. Brace yourself for what's next. There's a theme here. Bracers of defense. Jake, I feel like I already know why you want this. You kind of just talked about it. Is it fair to say,
yeah,
+2 to AC is always good for a wizard?
Yeah, you can't wear armor unless you take a feat or you multiclass or do something like that. So having a +2 to your AC, why make the concentration check at all if you can be missed? That's the thinking.
That's fair. You don't need the the bonus to your save if you don't get hit. So like, where are you going with that? Final in the 3 that we have stored here, at least. It's something that you've seen Jake use before in Ancient Relics and Hokey Religions. A Ring of Spell Storing. I mean, we've seen that there's a ton you can do with that.
I absolutely adore this magic item. And it's basically what you can do is you can store 5 levels worth of spells in any combination that you see fit. 5 level 1s, 1 level 5, and anything in there that adds up to 5. This it's just such a flexible and cool way that you can add to what your party does. We have a fighter who's going to be a champion. He doesn't have magic. If I want to put a spell in there that he could use, maybe like something he could concentrate on, now our group has 3 spells that we could concentrate on. And I could also throw in maybe a shield or something for him too, to make sure he could protect himself on the front lines. This is the kind of item that just, again, it's creative, it's flexible, it's very practical, and it's kind of like an additional like backdoor way of preparing spells, right? The night before, I could throw in, maybe 5 shield spells and then not prepare shield the next day or whatever. There's always something cool that you can do with this, and you just have more spells. That's the thing a wizard does. They cast spells.
That is what a wizard does, right? That's what all spellcasters do. Can't be a spellcaster if you can't cast spells.
It's true.
All 3 of those, I think, are excellent. I think I'm partial to Braces of Defense is fine. I'm partial to the Ring and to the Arcane Grimoire. What did you choose?
Ultimately, it did come down to those 2, but I chose the Arcane Grimoire, but we reskinned it as a wand. So I am playing a halfling, like I said, and I think it's made from a black walnut tree that he grew up with in his yard, and it's just kind of a little piece of home he could take with him, and it's just going to be special to him in some way.
Yeah, I think that's a great choice. That's probably my favorite there, and I do like the taking a piece of home with you. That there's something special about that, and
very halfling.
And yeah, it is very halfling, and I think as you get to know these characters, you're gonna know what we mean a little more. I do want to mention one thing as a honorable mention. Pearl of Power, pretty awesome choice for uncommon. Essentially, you get to speak a command word and regain a spell slot. What, it's third level is the max that it can be?
Yeah.
Up to 3rd, yeah. Which, I mean, if we're talking about wizard stereotypes here, 3rd level spell slot is a fireball for you.
Yeah, shoot it with fireball. That's how you fix things.
That's pretty significant.
It is.
But there are so many choices for magic items. Obviously, you're a wizard, so that plays into what you're going to choose. If you were Jake, or if you were Lee, or if you were Michael, what would you choose for your uncommon and for your rare slot, and why? Comment that down below, and stay tuned, because pretty soon, you're going to be able to watch us play through Vecna, Eve of Ruin. I got the name right this time.
Of course.